Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Radha Giradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Radha Giradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jaya Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jaya Ranjana Yamuna Shira Vanashari Yamuna Shira Vanashari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, dear devotees. Today we're reading from Srimad-bhagavatam 10th Canto, Chapter 3, Text 44. This is the transcendental appearance of Lord Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskrityam Narottamam Chevam Janam Narayana Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottamam Divim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Tadvam darshitam rupam Prachanma smaranaya me. We did this yesterday? Oh my God. I thought we did 43 yesterday. That's what Facebook said. You sure? This Good. No, we did 42 yesterday. We did 44. How come it's labeled different on Facebook? It's not the first time that happens. Oh, it's okay. I guess we're doing 45. Excuse me? The same verse again? I don't want to make you listen to the same verse. Oh, and the purports are great. I'm sure they're not that different. Okay. What is this one? Ivamam putra bhavena brahma bhavena cha sakrit chintayanto kritasneho yasyete madgatim param. Ivamam putra bhavena brahma bhavena cha sakrit chintayanto kritasneho yasyete madgatim param. Yuvam putra bhavena brahma bhavena cha sakrit chintayanto kritasneho yasyete madgatim param. Ivamat putra bhavena brahma bhavena cha sakrit kritasneho yasyete madgatim param. Ivamat putra bhavena brahma bhavena cha sakrit chintayanto kritasneho yasyete madgatim param. Ivamam putra bhavena brahma bhavena cha sakrit chintayanto kritasneho yasyete madgatim param. Ivamam putra bhavena brahma bhavena cha sakrit chintayanto kritasneho yasyete madgatim param. Ivamam putra bhavena yasyete madgatim param. Anybody else? Synonyms, Yuvam, both of you, husband and wife. Mam, unto me. Putra bhavana, as your son, Brahma Bhavana, knowing that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Cha, and Asakrit, constantly, Chintayanta, thinking like that, Krita Sneha, dealing with love and affection, Yasyate, shall both obtain Madgatim, my supreme abode, Param, which is transcendental beyond this material world. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Both of you, husband and wife, constantly think of me as your son, but always know that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By thus thinking of me constantly with love and affection, you will achieve the highest perfection, returning home back to Godhead. And we can repeat together. Both of you, husband and wife, constantly think of me as your son, but always know that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By thus thinking of me constantly with love and affection, you will achieve the highest perfection, returning home back to God. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This instruction by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to his father and mother, who are eternally connected with him, is especially intended for persons eager to return home back to Godhead. One should never think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as an ordinary human being, as non-devotees do. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, personally appeared and left his instructions for the benefit of all human society. But fools and rascals, unfortunately, think of him as an ordinary human being and twist the instructions of Bhagavad Gita for the satisfaction of their senses. Practically everyone commenting on Bhagavad Gita interprets it for sense gratification. It has become especially fashionable for modern scholars and politicians to interpret Bhagavad Gita as if it were something fictitious, and by their wrong interpretations, they are spoiling their own careers and the careers of others. The Krishna consciousness movement, however, is fighting against this principle of regarding Krishna as a fictitious person and of accepting that there was no battle of Kurukshetra, that everything is symbolic and that nothing in Bhagavad Gita is true. In any case, if one truly wants to be successful, one can do so by reading the text of Bhagavad Gita as it is. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially stressed the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. Yare dekha tare kaha Krishna upadasha. If one wants to achieve the highest success in life, one must accept Bhagavad Gita spoken by the Supreme Lord. By accepting Bhagavad Gita in this way, all of human society can perform perfectly and can become perfect and happy. It is to be noted that because Vasudeva and Devaki would be separated from Krishna when he was carried to Gokula, the residence of Nanda Maharaj, the Lord personally instructed them that they should always think of him as their son and as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That would keep them in touch with him. After 11 years, the Lord would return to Mathura to be their son, and therefore there was no question of separation. Hare Krishna. I'm going to try to speak something that's pleasing to everybody, according to Shastra, and also useful to our understanding and enhancement of our Krishna consciousness. Fortunately, I mistakenly read through a slightly wrong verse, but this is also very similar. So, all of Srimad-bhagavatam, Canto, before this, Canto 1 through 9, leading up to 10, are meant, all those cantos are meant to form our conception of the Supreme Lord and our understanding of who Krishna is as a person. So I listened to a lecture by Ramapan Swami, who spoke on the previous verse, unfortunately. But he speaks about all of Canto 10 in general also. And there's many misconceptions about who Krishna, who God is. We are told by the Bible that He is the Father. He is residing in heaven. The Father who resides in heaven. It's a literal verse from the Bible. But that's a very limited conception. It's only a very small part of the story. Father is somebody who we can take shelter of. So Father is a creator. Is a lot of times in our Western countries the dominant kind of masculine figure. But Krishna, he can be also a son, like we see here. He appears as a child and also forms a loving relationship with his parents, of course, just like any child. But at the same time, he wants his parents to know that he's not an ordinary child, to avoid, again, any misconception. So the love, that's the bond that's formed between him and his parents, it's not any ordinary bond. It's not to be confused with ordinary material love. It's transcendental love. So can anybody name other times where Krishna, he makes sure that his devotees understand that he is the Supreme Lord? Somewhere in Bhagavatam or Gita, Krishna makes his form seen. Yes, the universal form in Bhagavad Gita, where he displays it to Arjuna, again, to give Arjuna that higher understanding. Or also maybe in Chaitanya Charitamrita also, there's occasions where Krishna, in this case, it's Lord Chaitanya, he manifests forms. And in one Leela, in Lord Chaitanya, he manifests forms in according with the bhav of the devotees, their preference. He literally manifests a different form to each one of the devotees, and they see whatever form they experience most attraction to, they see that particular form. So in this way, this transcendental love, this transcendental relationship is formed, and there's no mistaken identity here of who is in front of you, and this way the devotees, they get the extra bonus in their relationship. Yes, Lord Kapila, he also manifests his form in the third canto. Thank you, Prabhuji. Also, Mother Yashoda, she gets to see, when she looks into the mouth of Krishna, she sees that there's a whole universe in there. And she sees herself looking into the mouth of Krishna. So again, to make sure that this understanding is there, Krishna does those things. So, and many different threads we are woven together. So the first 9 cantos, they go through creation, through different avatars, to build our understanding, our perception, and our proper conception of the Lord. And they all lead up to this Sambonam, to this most confidential pastimes. So by this point, we already should have like a good idea of who Krishna is, of his personality, of his moods sometimes. Of course, not all of them, but at least partial understanding, a glimpse of who he is as a person. And Ramapada Swami, he goes into a discussion of Sandarbhas, Tattva Sandarbha, by Jiva Goswami, and kind of draws parallels in there also. In the first one, Tattva Sandarbha, Krishna's opulence is kind of suppressed in a way, so it's described just in partial way. And then he goes to explain the creation and Paramatma, again, to build our understanding slowly of Krishna. And then later on, he jumps into Krishna as Bhagavat, as the Supreme Lord, and his personal aspect, his personality. Srimad-bhagavatam is a sound vibration of Bhagavan, so through hearing Bhagavatam, we get to know Krishna better. And when we understand this part of Bhagavatam, we understand all of creation, because this is the source of creation in Canto 10, essentially. And for my personal realization, we just had this interesting conversation with Bhatri Prabhu, who was talking about, well, he talks about a lot of different things. He's very talented, but one thing that to me struck out, and also something that I've learned a while ago, something that's used even in jurisprudence, in court, is this term, understand. And when we break it down, understand means standing under. So we don't say overstand, or we don't say upper stand, it's understand. So to understand means what could we gather from breaking down this word. What does understanding could potentially mean? It's what? Yes, it means, yes, it's one of the things, is humility. So when you understand somebody, you mean you come under them. You assume a humble position. And to understand Krishna means to come under his authority, under his guidance. Also from my experience and from the way I see things, understand a lot of times means to forgive. Whenever you understand somebody, at least you make the attempt to comprehend what is it that they're experiencing. You come under standing under their conception, also under their perception. You try to step into their shoes, and when we do that, it's much easier for us to forgive someone. Because when we see just one side, our side of the story, we might not be we never are getting the full picture. So to understand someone is to forgive one. And there's a lot of forgiveness that needs to be done. We need to forgive ourselves a lot of times. We need to forgive others, forgive ourselves for living the spiritual world and stepping down into the material world and desiring so many things that do not align with the desire of the Lord and with the Shastra. and acting essentially on the whim. Also, understanding can mean what else? Anything else we can think of? To understand someone is also to love someone. So you cannot, we talked about this, I think, last week. Whenever you have knowledge of someone, you are able to develop affection for them. So in this verse, and in other verses in this Canto, we're trying to understand Krishna. We're trying to develop affection for him. And it's only possible when you actually get to know someone. How can you know? How can you love somebody that you don't know? You don't propose to your future wife without building a relationship with her, right? So without having this knowledge, this conception, it's impossible to develop any type of feeling, emotion, relationship. And as we know, spiritual world is all about relationships. And in this world, when we form relationships, when we form humility, when we form love and compassion, we're mimicking what's going to happen in the spiritual world. So we're preparing ourselves here for what lies beyond. And it not necessarily means we're going to go directly into this spiritual world. For example, Bhaktivedanta Goswami says that it takes at least 2 lifetimes to come back home, back to Godhead. And of course, Govinda Prabhu, for example, from Alacha says, how do you know this is not your second lifetime? Right before you go back. But, it's kind of debatable. As Shastra said that a lot of times we go to like middle state, we go to Boma Lila, where we get trained up by the Nitya Siddhas. We get further purification before we actually become qualified. To step into the fire, you have to be of the quality of the fire. So this training ground that we have here primarily is meant for developing relationships. There's no book distribution in the spiritual world. There's no where we want to go. There's none of that 4-2-3-7. We don't do that over there. You don't take sannyas in the spiritual world because it's all convert boys and matajis, the mothers of the convert boys. So that's why it's very important to have some proper relationship, developing proper relationship with each other. And if you don't have those, if you cannot feel compassion, if you cannot develop love for somebody who's right next to you, somebody you're serving with, or somebody you're interacting with weekly, bi-weekly, how can you develop a relationship with Bhagavan? How would that be possible? If you're experiencing some sort of negativity towards people here, how is it possible for you to not have those slight feelings, whatever, of negativity up in the spiritual world? So we better take advantage of our situation here and do our best to work on ourselves in that perspective. And it's not gonna, my Gurudev says a lot that it's not gonna happen overnight. It doesn't happen on its own accord. It's something that we absolutely have to practice with him. He makes a lot of emphasis, a lot of stress on building relationships amongst each other. Gratitude is very important. Saying thank you sometimes. I forgot, I was just listening to another lecture, and it was some temple, it might have been in the 70s, and it was Jayapataka Swami. He was visiting this temple, and he saw somebody on Sunday. There was Sunday feast, and he sees Mataji, and he starts talking to her, and he asks her, did anybody actually talk to you before this? And she said, no, actually, you were the first person that interacted with me. And she's been coming there for several weeks, maybe a couple months. And it was Jayapataka Swami, a traveling sannyasi. He was the first person to actually talk to this person. Jaya, Raj Vihar, Jaya, 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 Jaya. So, having just a little bit of contact with the members of the congregation can go a long way. And also yesterday we had a long discussion about what is the proper way of interacting with different level devotees. And some of them very intelligent, very productive, very outgoing. However, they not yet desirous, they don't have the desire to serve as much. So sometimes it just takes a little bit of encouragement, enthusing someone to take that next step of doing more service. Somebody who's talented. Another story that comes to my mind is a sadhu who's trying to rescue a scorpion. It's a very famous story. But the scorpion, he keeps biting him. And sadhu, the scorpion is flowing in the water, in the river. And the sadhu was sitting on the bank of the river, tries to grab the scorpion, rescue the scorpion, but the scorpion bites him once. Sadhu lets go and then tries to grab it again. He gets bitten second time, and he lets go, and third time, and finally, after a while, he's able to rescue the scorpion, and that shows that compassion that's necessary. That's number one quality. Well, I was going to ask you also, what is the number one quality? What do you think would be in Brahmanas? Also, arguably in Vaishnavas, there needs to be. What is it? Compassion. How about number two quality? More compassion, okay. I'm quoting Chaitanya Chandracharan. So Chaitanya Chandracharan Prabhu, he says that simplicity, actually, in Brahmanas, simplicity is number one quality that needs to be developed. Essentially, being sincere, or simplicity is also other way of saying honesty. So whenever somebody is honest, we're able to understand, or simple, we're able to understand him. When somebody is not complex, we're more drawn to that, to simplicity. We're able to reveal our hearts, and that's also another important aspect of Vaishnavism, revealing one's heart to one another. And in this way, we are developing, again, back to relationship. And when that simplicity, that sincerity is not there, people tend to close off. And a lot of times it's not what you say, it's more about the person's energy, their action. And when they're simple, it's clear what they're doing, their intent to everybody, then automatically people are drawn to that. And that's also very important. An important quality that we all need to work on. And maybe somebody has some questions, or maybe I can speak on another part of this verse. Well, more specifically, when Prabhupada talks in this purport about the instruction of Bhagavad Gita and how a lot of times it's twisted for the satisfaction of the section. There's one person immediately that comes to my mind that Prabhupada, he talks about him Sometimes he says positive things, but a lot of times he also negatively talks about it. Who use the Bhagavad Gita in a, not as it was intended. Anybody knows who it is? Who? Thakur Radhakrishna. Dr. Radhakrishna, yes. Dr. Radhakrishna, that's correct. Another person I'm thinking of is Mahatma Gandhi. And he exactly did this. He interpreted it as something that's fictitious. He spoke of Bhagavad Gita as an allegory. The five Pandavas, they're just our five senses, something like that. I don't know exactly. I never heard his direct talks, but I heard Prabhupada chastising him openly. And interestingly enough, a few months ago, I brought it up here in class. There's one Indian devotee. He was very offended when I brought the fact that Mahatma Gandhi, he was misinterpreting Bhagavad Gita essentially. He started to argue after the class. He was arguing with me, saying that Gandhi, he's the creator of the nations. How can you speak poorly of Gandhi? I'm not sure which nations he created, but he said Gandhi is a father. He's the father of the nations. The nations were there a long time before Gandhi ever appeared. But anyways, that's more like a nationalistic sentiment. So maybe somebody wants to add something or have a question about this wonderful purport. Accepting the Bhagavad Gita as it is spoken, maybe about relationships. Okay, I'm going to read the verse one more time. It's a quick one. Both of you, husband and wife, constantly think of me as your son, but always know that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By thus thinking of me constantly with love and affection, you will achieve the highest perfection, returning home back to Godhead. Haribol. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srimad-bhagavatam ki jai. Haribol. Hare Krishna.